Hi guys! So I hope everybody is doing well and having a good week. We're going to be going over the sixth habit in the 7 habits of highly effective teens by Sean Covey today. And that habit is to synergize. Synergize means to basically do something with other people, create something, work together, and create something bigger and better than any one person could create by themselves. And without synergy, obviously, our society as we know it would not exist. So it's about people working together instead of against each other. So when we talked about, I think it was habit 4, thinking win-win, this incorporates thinking win-win into it. It also incorporates listening, habit 5, and so basically this habit is a combination of habits 4 and 5 plus also getting stuff done as a group. So this would be like group projects that you have to work on together, whether it's for your job or whether it's a family situation, whether it's school, whatever you're doing where you have to work with people, this is going to come in handy for you. So basically, this is about working together and being inclusive of all different kinds of people in your groups that you're working with, because the more, I guess, diversity there is in your groups, the more you have to learn, the more opportunities there are for you. So if everybody in your group is exactly the same, no one's going to learn anything from each other because you guys already know. But if everybody in your group is different, like maybe from a different place or has a different type of lifestyle, or maybe does a different type of job, those differences are good because they give you different options. So when you're working together as a group, if you have a very diverse group of people, you're going to get a lot more options because they have different ways of seeing the world, different ways of thinking, and different ways of doing stuff. So there is more than one correct way to do something. So synergy is about respecting everybody's opinion on how things should be done, and then figuring out a way to do them together that works for everybody, okay? It's not really about compromise either. It's really about finding that best solution that really does work for everyone so nobody feels like they're getting slighted. Okay, so what synergy isn't? It's not working by yourself. It's not doing stuff alone. It's not being judgmental against other people. And it's about, really giving yourself opportunity to work with people that maybe you normally wouldn't work with. Okay, so let me just scroll through my notes here just a sec. Like, is this still recording? It is. Okay, so diversity, let's talk about that. That's the next topic here. So the thing about diversity is that when I went to school, I studied to be a psychologist, and I went to, I think it was a multicultural class, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to learn about all different groups of people. And I kind of thought like, okay, I'm going to learn what all Native Americans are like, and I'm going to learn what all Chinese people are like. I really thought that. I went to the class ready to learn, and my teacher said, if you think that this is going to be the kind of class where you learn about different groups of people, you're wrong. And I was like, oh man, I really misjudged this class. But what she said next really made sense. She said, even though everybody is part of a group, they're part of a bunch of groups. So you can't judge somebody based off of like one group membership, okay? You have to kind of judge them based separately on their own, away from all the groups that they're involved in. What kind of person is this person? And if we can look at, I guess, all the aspects that make up a person, then we can kind of understand why everybody's so different. And so we're all a minority of one, as it says in your book. We're all just us, individuals. So even though we do have a lot of group memberships we're involved in, that doesn't define who we are. So here's some of the things that do define who we are. So we all have different sets of values. We're from different places, like locations. We all have different ethnicities. We have different attitudes towards things, different temperaments. We have different talents or things we're good at, different belief systems, different religions, different sets of knowledge because we've learned different things or we've chosen to focus on different things, and different experiences, different families that we grew up in, different things we like, different things we dislike. So all those things go into making up a person. So you cannot assume that any one person is just one aspect of who they are, right? There are lots of different aspects. There's lots of different facets to every human being. And so I guess when you're working to create synergy, you have to understand that you're dealing with other people who are very complex, just like you are. And so you can't make any snap judgments about any person because there's so much more than just what you see when you look at them, physically. There's a lot more, I guess, to that person once you get to know them. So when you're working with others, even if they're different than you can't assume anything. And I think if you don't assume anything, it's a lot easier to create synergy with people because then you're free and open to ask questions and find out the truth about people and who they are and what they're like. If, of course, they're willing to share that with you. So let me move on to my slides. So diversity, why is it important? The reason it's important is because without it, we'd all be the same. And I guess if we were all the same, there'd be nothing exciting going on. I don't know. I think we're made differently for a reason, but maybe you have a better answer. I don't know. I think diversity is important because look at Chaffey College, for example. We're a pretty awesome school. One thing I like about Chaffey is that you don't just look at the students and see one type of student. You see all different types of students from all different walks of life. Every semester in my classes, I get a really interesting group of people. I never know who I'm going to get. It's never the same. And when you look at the faculty at Chaffey, it's not just one type of teacher. There's all different kinds of teachers, tutors, staff, etc. that are just amazing. And yet we all work together fantastically here. It's such a great climate to collaborate and work with other instructors and I guess administrators. So I think the perfect job would be a place where there's lots of diversity and there's lots of different types of people who could bring a lot of different types of ideas to the table. So if you were to start your own business, you would probably want your business to have a lot of different types of people. You wouldn't want them to all be the same type of person because if you had all the same type of person, you'd probably miss really important things. Remember we talked about the different personality styles? We talked about true colors, blues, golds, greens, and blues, right? Blues, golds, greens, oranges. Sorry. So those colors determine what kind of person somebody is. You probably, if you're doing a company, you probably want at least one of each of those colors, right? So, you know that your company is going to be stronger if you have a lot of different types of personalities because there's checks and balances there and they'll be able to be like, oh, did you think about that? And the person will, oh, I wouldn't have thought about it that way. So thank God we just troubleshooted right there. So I really think synergy is something that it's great when it happens, but I wish that I could just create it, right? Oh, wait, I totally can just create it. I totally can just create it. All right, so I'll tell you how to create it in just a few minutes, but before I do that, I just want to say that there's a lot of different ways that people look at diversity, and some people think it's an evil, bad thing. And actually, a lot of times when I bring up the topic diversity in a lecture, I'll hear students go, oh, like, do we have to talk about this? But we're not talking about it in a negative way here at all. But we're just saying that, yeah, there's some people that they just tolerate diversity, like they'll put up with it. Like, I'll do this because I'm in school and I can't make a big fuss about it. But as soon as we leave this campus, I'm not hanging out with this person, even though we have to do a group project. Oh, that was my phone. I have my phone on because I've got my son's supposed to text me, so I don't want to miss it. That was not him, though. So anyway, some people just tolerate it. And tolerate means like putting up with, like I'll put up with diversity. And you don't want just to put up with stuff. You want to like embrace it and love it. Some people even shun diversity, meaning they're like, diversity is stupid. And a lot of times that's just because they were taught that by somebody. Maybe they haven't had a good experience working with people who are different than they are. But, they find the more highly educated people are, the more open to diversity they are. I think because they probably see what it's like to work with other people in college setting. Most colleges do have a diverse group of students. So, you start to work with other people who are different and you go, this is great. And you want to keep doing it. So I think that's why the more educated you are, the more you probably accept diversity. What we're aiming for here with this habit 6, is we are celebrating diversity. Like, we are excited. We're having a party about it. I'm actually really excited about diversity because I feel like I've learned so much from, I mean, honestly, working here at Chafee with so many different types of faculty, I have learned so much from these people because they are amazing, not only at teaching what they do, but they're also amazing people outside of, being teachers here. And I feel like my students as well. I have such wonderful students. It's such an amazing experience to get to know everybody, no matter what walk of life they're from, and kind of be able to walk on the journey with them for a little while. So celebrating for me is what I do. And so I invite you to join me and do it as well, because it's actually pretty cool. All right, so moving on here. My notes are kind of frozen. Okay, so basically, you might see in the PowerPoint that there's like a couple of photos where it says we all see things differently. And so I kind of wanted to explain that when you look at those, that some people see them as one thing and some people see them as something else. So I think I put one of them in this lecture. So if you look at this photo, it looks like, to me, when I first saw it, it looks like a person kind of going like this over their shoulder, and there's like the eyes and a nose and a mouth. Yeah, so look in the PowerPoint. If you see the person, that's cool. But also, it says the word liar, and I did not see that until someone pointed it out to me. It's in cursive, and it's kind of on a slant. So if you do see that, it's not explained in the PowerPoint, so I thought you might be confused by that. I don't want you to be confused. A good example of synergy from the book is the Sequoia National Forest, or the giant trees. So those trees are actually really tall, and if they were just by themselves, the wind would just easily knock them over because they have really shallow roots. But because there's so many of them, they actually, underneath the soil, the roots will start to tangle together and they'll become like a giant clump. So like all the trees will have these roots that stretch for miles and miles, and they'll hold each other up. So if the wind was going to blow them over, it had to blow all of them over, and I don't think it's possible for that to happen. So that's why they're so old. Some of these trees are like hundreds of years old because they can't get blown over by the wind. So, and they're really tall. All right, so moving on here. I want to go over this thing called the action plan for synergy. So remember how I said, wouldn't it be nice if we could just create synergy together right now? Yeah, we can. So let me give you an example of synergy at work, okay? So the example is a symphony. So each person has to learn an instrument, how to play an instrument, and they have to learn how to read music. So they do that individually. Then they come together and they all choose a piece of music to work on together. They have a conductor. The conductor takes, I don't know how many people are in a symphony, I honestly don't, but it's a lot of musicians. There's whole sections for violins and flutes and things like that. So all these people work together to create this fantastic symphony. And no one person can create a symphony by themselves. So that's why synergy is required for something like a symphony. And there's a lot of things in life that you cannot do by yourself. You just cannot. So you need other people and you need synergy, and you need to know how to make it happen when you want to make it happen. If you're planning on being a manager or having your own company or something like that, this is very useful information. This will help you to create good meetings with your employees, where your employees feel heard, and you actually get information and help from every single person who works for you, okay? So the action plan for synergy. So the first thing you need to do is, once you have your group of people together, decide who's kind of in charge of leading the meeting, because if everybody's trying to lead the meeting, it doesn't go very smoothly. So just appoint somebody. It doesn't really matter who, because they're just a facilitator. Everybody is going to be heard as part of this action plan, okay? So once you figure out the leader, have the leader go around and ask everybody, once they know what the problem is, what do you think the solution is? And they'll just go around and ask each person, and everybody has to have a chance to contribute. someone should be writing this stuff down so we get everybody's ideas out there. Once everyone's ideas are out there, don't argue about the ideas until later, okay? So just get the ideas out there, then brainstorm some other additional ideas. So you get all your ideas out first. Makes sense, right? And you got to use habit 5 here. Listen to other people first, then contribute your idea, okay? So one person at a time. I think whoever the facilitator is should go last. All right, then after everybody has contributed ideas and you guys have brainstormed more together, then you're going to go through and figure out a way to narrow down the choices until you guys all come up with a decision that makes sense for everybody. Now, I understand sometimes it takes a while to reach a decision, so sometimes you have to kind of agree upon a decision-making process early on. Maybe you're going to do a democratic vote. Maybe you're going to have somebody listen to everything and then make the final choice. Maybe everybody's going to decide together. But I think it's good to kind of decide that ahead of time, how you're going to make that decision of what is the best idea. So once you figure out that best idea, then everybody can find a way to contribute and make that idea happen. And if you're the manager, then you can kind of assign roles at that point to people who, agreed with the idea. I think whoever came up with the idea should probably get to do some, a good portion of the work on the idea since they came up with it. But I guess that's up to you and your organization. So the action plan for Synergy is something that is very, very, very useful in your life as a manager. If you become a manager. But I mean, if you're like a mom or dad and you've got a bunch of kids, this is a great way to facilitate, a family meeting too. It works for all different kinds of situations. It also works for school stuff, like, when you're studying together, you're trying to figure out what the best way to approach a project is. This works. In fact, lots of businesses are using the action plan for Synergy right now in their meetings. In fact, when you go out in the real world, I guess, get some kind of job out there, you'll find, wow, Synergy is kind of a thing that everybody does. This is a very corporate work world kind of term, and you'll probably hear it a lot now that you have been turned on to the idea and you know what it is. So I want you to go forth and synergize. I have included for this week in your discussion a story that we're all going to be creating synergy on. I started the story and everybody's going to have a chance to contribute to it. And then at the end of the week, I'll post it so you guys can all see our creation, what we came up with. And that should be really fun. So that's a good way for us to create synergy here together over the internet. All right, guys, you have a wonderful rest of the night and take care.